For those of you who don't know me, I'm Coach Theo, and today we're going to talk about what we normally talk about on this channel, which is awareness, clarity, and intention. Because we actually don't need to have everything. And so let me ask you a question. Have you ever delayed making a decision because you felt like you needed to have every detail figured out first? You need to know everything. You wanted to know exactly what would happen. You needed confirmation or wanted confirmation that you were making the right choice and the right decision. You wanted to really feel confident about what you were about to do. But I want you to consider this question. What if you don't need to have everything figured out in order to move forward? What if the clarity you're waiting for can only come after you get started? I want to talk about the pressure that we sometimes put on ourselves because we're waiting for all the answers because we want everything to be perfect, and waiting for clarity, waiting for like that perfect, clear, everything detail type of situation may be keeping you stuck. And so consider this. I would say most of us, we're considered high achieving women, like we are successful women. And many of us are accustomed to being prepared. We are dotting every I and crossing every T, right? We think through things through thoroughly. We consider all the possible outcomes. We're making plans. We're solving problems. We're trying to anticipate what could go wrong. And those qualities probably have helped us out a lot. It's probably helped us accomplish a lot in our lives. But sometimes that desire to be prepared, to have everything figured out, to know all the details, it becomes a belief that you can't move forward until you are certain, until you have all the details, which can keep you stuck because you're telling yourself you need to think about it a little longer. So that turns into procrastination. You tell yourself you need more information. You tell yourself you need to know exactly how everything will work out or how it will work out. You tell yourself that you need to be completely ready or feel like you are completely ready. But readiness does not always feel like being confident in the decision that you need to make. And sometimes readiness can just really mean you recognize that where you are presently doesn't feel right. And you got to be willing to explore what comes next. And you got to be able to explore that and willing to explore that without having all the details and knowing how everything will work out. Because you may not know exactly where you're going, but you know something needs to change. You know that there's a change that needs to be made. And that's awareness. And that's what matters. When you get to a point that you are aware that something needs to change, that's what matters. And clarity and control are not the same thing. Because sometimes what we call a need for clarity is actually you wanting to be in control. We want the reassurance that the decision we're about to make will work. We want to know that we won't make any mistakes. We want to guarantee, we want to know for sure that we won't have any regrets about the decision or the thing we're about to do. But clarity cannot promise you, nor does it equal a perfect outcome. Clarity helps you understand what feels right and true for you in the moment, in the season that you're at. And control says, I need to know exactly how this will turn out. That's not what clarity is. Clarity says, I know what matters to me. I've reached a point where I know what's mattered to me, and I am now ready to take the next step from here. And that's important because clarity does not mean that you wait because you want to make sure that the next step or the next decision you make is going to mean everything works out perfectly. Clarity means that you get to a point where you're like, okay, I know I need to make a change. I need to do something different. And I'm ready to take the first step in that direction. And so when you are in a space of clarity, you do not need to see the entire path to know whether your next step is aligned with who you are and what you want. So, how can I say this? We often think that clarity has to arrive as one big revelation, and that's not how it works. We imagine that there will be a moment where everything just suddenly makes sense, and we know exactly what needs to get done and what to do. And sometimes that happens, it's possible, but more often than not, clarity develops as we move forward. It comes through trying something different, having a conversation, asking a different question, gathering information, setting boundaries or setting a boundary, and giving yourself permission to explore different options without committing to something forever. It means that whatever you decide doesn't have to be written in stone. It's really just like a small step that gives you new information. And you start to learn what feels right, what no longer fit, what energized you, what made you need a change or what may need to change. And that information begins to help you decide what comes next. So you're not committing to the entire journey. You're just simply responding to what you know today in the moment, in the space that you are currently in. So moving forward without every answer does not mean that you're rushing into a decision. There's a distinction, there's a difference between taking an intentional step and reacting because you're frustrated or you're exhausted or you're afraid. Intentional movement includes reflection. Before deciding what to do next, you ask yourself some questions. You ask yourself, what do I already know? What do I already know about this place that I am in? What feels right? What doesn't feel right? What feels true for me in this season? What am I afraid of? What am I afraid might happen if I move forward? And am I waiting for clarity or am I waiting for a guarantee? And what is one step that I can take without needing to know the entire plan? And when you begin to ask those questions can help you separate what you really need to consider from the fear that is telling you to wait until everything feels perfect. You are allowed to learn as you go. You are allowed to make a decision based on what you know now. You are allowed to adjust when you receive new information. And you are allowed to change directions. You're allowed to pivot. It's not written in stone. And you are allowed to take one step without knowing where the 5th or the 10th or the 20th step will lead you to. Moving forward does not mean that you have figured out your entire life. It means you trust yourself enough to respond to what this season is revealing to you. And so maybe your next step is having a conversation that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's doing some researching different opportunities. Maybe it is just acknowledging that something no longer fits in the season that you are in. And maybe, just maybe, it's finally giving yourself space to consider what you want, not just what everyone expects from you. And whatever that step is, it does not have to be this dramatic moment. It just needs to be meaningful. You do not need perfect clarity. You need enough clarity so that you're ready to take the next intentional step. And sometimes that step is what creates the clarity that you've been waiting for. And so if you have been feeling uncertain about your next chapter, your next season, and you would like some support understanding where you are, what may be keeping you stuck, and what moving forward could look like for you, I invite you to explore the alignment audit. The alignment audit is a program that I created. It's an opportunity for you to pause, to reflect, and to gain clarity without putting a lot of pressure on yourself to have everything figured out. It really is an opportunity for you to take time to figure out where you're at, for you to become aware, and then for you to move into a space of clarity. So it's awareness, it's clarity, and then it's movement, but movement with intention. And the beauty about the alignment audit is you can do it on your own, self-guided. If you're not ready to talk to someone or invest in a coach or really need time to figure it out by yourself first, you can do it as a self-guided process, or you can choose to add on a coaching session. So there's 2 ways to experience the alignment audit. And I have included in the description below information on the program. And I really want you to consider what is one small step you already know you need to take. Maybe that step is the alignment audit. So thank you for spending some time listening to this video, spending some time with me. And just remember, you don't have to see the entire path to take the next step. You just need to make that one next intentional step. If this message resonated with you, share in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.